Hey guys, welcome. So this is going to be the rest of chapter 7, and then tomorrow I will either hopefully have the internet figured out. The internet was a disaster today, or just post another video like this. Okay? So, and look, my cat Mildred is joining us today. She says hello. She is a big fan of grammar, so yeah, she's going to be helping me teach. All right, so. Man, hi. All right. So, 710, right? 710. If you go into your books on page 195, you can see a beautiful box, right? So in 710, we're going to be talking about necessity or lack of necessity, okay? All right. So, if something is not necessary, right? If it's basically optional, you would use the phrase don't have to, right? Uh, if so it's basically like if you want to, you can. If you don't want to, no problem, right? For example, in America, in my country, if I want to travel from California to New York, right? It's the same country. I don't have to bring my passport, right? It's not necessary. We just need to bring our driver's license or our government ID, right? But if I use must not, this means basically that there's going to be a problem if I do this thing, whatever it is, okay? For example, on a plane, right? What is something that you absolutely are not allowed to do on a plane? You are not allowed to smoke, right? If someone smokes on the plane, they will stop the plane, they'll make them get off, they'll make them pay a lot of money, and cause a lot of problems for them, right? So it basically, must not is going to be, if you do this, you're going to have a big problem. Now, the affirmative forms, must and have to, are the same, right? For the affirmative form, for example, if I say I must bring my passport or I have to bring my passport, I think it's an example here. Where is it? Yeah, you must bring your passport or you have to bring your passport. This is the same meaning, right? Now, you must not or you don't have to are not the same, right? I would say, for example, you must not bring your passport. This means if you bring your passport, you will have a problem. I can't think of an example of that, but it's just an example. And if I say you don't have to bring your passport, that means it's optional. It's up to you, right? If you want, you can bring it, but if you don't, no problem, okay? All right, so we're going to take a look at exercise 35 on page 196. So I'm going to ask you to pause the recording and complete all of the sentences with either don't have to, doesn't have to, or must not, okay? Remember, don't have to or doesn't have to means it's optional, okay? If you do it, great. If you don't do it, no problem, okay? Must not means you will have a problem if you do this. It's really important that you don't, okay? So exercise 35, right? Number 1, you must not drive when you're tired. It's dangerous. Number 2, I live a few blocks from my office. I don't have to drive to work. Number 3, Liz got a car. Now she drives to work. She doesn't have to take the bus. If she wants to take the bus, she can, no problem, right? But it's not necessary. All right, number 4, Mr. Murphy is very wealthy. He doesn't have to work for a living. Can he work if he wants to? Sure, right? But is it necessary? Will he have any problem if he doesn't? No, he has enough money to last him the rest of his life. Number 5, you must not tell Dad about the party. If you tell him, he'll know and then it won't be a surprise, right? That's no fun. Okay, number 6, yes, she assigned chapter 4 and 6, but we have to, but we don't have to read chapter 5, right? So if you want to read chapter 5, you're welcome to. Nothing bad will happen, but it's not necessary. You won't have any problems if you don't do it, okay? Number 7, you must not get in the car if a stranger offers you a ride. That's obvious, right? Like, why would you do that? Okay, all right. So any questions for 35? If you do, please email me or you can contact me on WhatsApp, okay? All right, so let's take a look now at the box 711. Okay, so in 711, we're using must again, but this time must we're using to draw logical conclusions. Okay, so it's talking once again basically about a possibility, right? It's about something that I'm not 100% positive of, but maybe I'm 90%, right? So it's a little bit, you're a little bit more sure, Then if you're dealing with like may or might, like that's like 50-50. If you're using must, it's like I am like 95% sure. Very, very sure. Okay, look at the example here. Nancy is yawning, right? Yawning. Oh, why do people yawn? They're tired or they're bored, right? So I would say for example, she must be sleepy, right? Amy plays tennis every day. If someone plays tennis every day, what do you think? You think they like tennis? Yeah, probably, right? Probably more than 50% chance they like tennis. Probably 90 or 100% chance they like tennis. So we would say she must like to play tennis, okay? So exercise C is an example of a necessity, using must as a necessity, right? Versus a logical conclusion. If it's something that needs to happen. If you want to get to the movie theater, you must buy a ticket. No options, okay? A negative logical conclusion, right? Eric ate everything on his plate except for pickles, right? What do you think? You think he likes pickles? Probably not. Can you be sure 100%? No, you can't, right? But this is the conclusion that we can most likely draw based off of this, okay? He must not like pickles, okay? Negative for a prohibition, right? You're going to have a problem if you do this. There are sharks in the ocean near our hotel. We must not go swimming there, right? If you go swimming, you will have a problem, big time, okay? All right, so we're gonna move on and look at exercise 37, okay? So in exercise 37, you will complete it with either must or must not, based off of the context, okay? So go ahead, pause the recording or pause the slideshow, and then I will see you on the next slide. Okay, welcome back, exercise 37, right? Did you offer the guests something? Yes, but they didn't want anything. They must not be hungry yet. Okay, number 2, you haven't eaten since breakfast. That was hours ago. You must be hungry. Great. Gregory has already had 4 glasses of water and now he's having another. He must be really thirsty. I offered Holly something to drink, but she doesn't want anything. She must not be thirsty. The dog won't eat. He must not feel well. Brian has watery eyes and has been coughing and sneezing. Poor guy, he must have coronavirus. Just kidding. All right. Erica's really smart. She always gets above 90% on her math test. I am sure she's bright, but she must also study a lot, right? Probably, I'm like pretty sure. And number 8, someone is jumping on the floor above us. It must be Sam. Sometimes he does exercise. Okay, so once again, in all of these where I'm drawing a conclusion, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty darn close. Okay. All right. So looking on the next page at exercise 38, right? Make a logical conclusion, right? So pause the recording if you want, and then try and guess what you think my logical conclusion is. All right. I didn't write anything, I think, very unique, but let's see what we have. Okay, so Alima is crying. She must be unhappy. Mrs. Chu has a big smile on her face. What do you think? Ah, she must be happy, right? Number 3, Samantha is shivering. She must be cold. Olga watches 10 movies a week. What do you think? She must love movies, right? Number 5, James is sweating. He must be hot. Maybe he's nervous. He must be nervous. Toshi can lift one end of a compact car by himself. He must be strong. Okay? All right. So that's all we're going to look at for using must for logical conclusions. Okay? Okay, so we're going to look now at exercise 39. So once again, please pause the recording and try and complete the answers or complete the questions with the correct answers, right? Number 1 is already done, right? I'm at Cyril's apartment. I've knocked on the door and have rung the doorbell several times. Nobody has answered the door. Do you think he's at home? Probably not, right? So we would say he must not be at home and he must be out somewhere. These would be our logical conclusions, right? Okay. Number 2. Jennifer reads books all the time. She sits in a quiet corner and reads even when people come to visit her. Do you think she loves books? I think so. Yeah. Um, so we would say she must love books, she must like books better than people, and she must not like to talk to people, right? Number two, or number three, sorry. Laura has a full academic schedule. She plays in the volleyball tennis team, has the lead in the school play, and is a volunteer at the hospital, and takes piano lessons and has a part-time job at an ice cream store. Wow, that's a lot. So, do you think she's busy all the time? Do you think she has a lot of spare time? And do you think she's a hard worker? She must be busy all the time. She must not have a lot of spare time. And yes, she must be a hard worker. I'm pretty sure that all makes sense to me. Okay, number four. Simon goes on the internet every day. As soon as he gets home from work, he stays at his computer until he goes to bed. So we would say he must be a computer addict. He must not have a happy home life, and he must not have a lot of friends. Poor Simon. All right. That's it for 7-11. And so we're going to move on and take a look at exercise 41. So this is tag questions. So you guys remember all of the rules for tag questions, right? So tag questions, why do we have them? Tag questions exist. Oh, sorry. I forgot exercise 40. Let's take a look, right? We're going to use must, have to, or had to. All right, so so remember, must is something that is necessary to do, as is have to. Had to is going to be the past for both must and have to, right? All right, so your eyes are red. You must be really tired, right? Number two, yeah, I all night working on a project. And then did you finish? So we know this is a past action. So we would say, I had to stay up all night working on a project. No, something something on it later today. Later today, so that's like future, right? So we would say I have to work on it later today, but I have a million other things to do. And then number four is you must be really busy. I am. Okay, so now tag questions, all right? So remember, we use tag questions to check if the information that we think is true is actually correct, right? So I have an idea. I'm not sure. For example, I think that my friend Missy loves classical music, right? So I would say, I'm pretty sure that's true, but I want to check. I would say, hey, Missy, you love classical music, don't you? Right? So I take my helping verb, so that it's the present simple. You love classical music, right? Then the helping verb for that tense, I would move it to the opposite of negative or affirmative. So you love classical music, that's affirmative present simple. So the negative helping verb would be don't you, right? You love classical music, don't you, right? I could also say to Missy, I'm pretty sure she doesn't speak Japanese, right? So I would say, hey, Missy, you don't speak Japanese, do you? Right? Okay. So the same thing is true with all of our modal verbs, right? Whenever we're doing that, we always take our first helping verb and then we switch it. For if it's affirmative, make it negative. If it's negative, make it affirmative, right? Let's look at the examples. You can come, can't you? She won't tell, will she? He should help, shouldn't he? They couldn't do it, could they? We would like to help, wouldn't we? Right, okay, so all of these are affirmative, and you'll notice, oh, except for this one and this one. Whenever they are affirmative, the other one is negative. If it's negative, you won't tell, it's affirmative. Okay? They're very common with have to, has to, or had to, right? So if I say, for example, you have to go, right? How would I make that a question? You have to go? The question would be, do you not? Do you have to go? Do you have to go? The helping verb is do, right? It's not have you to go, okay? So if you're making a tag question with have to go or had to go or something, the helping verb is going to be a form of do, okay? For example, they have to leave, don't they? They don't have to leave, do they? He has to leave, doesn't he? He doesn't have to leave, does he? You had to leave, didn't you? Or you didn't have to leave, did you? Okay. So let's take a look at exercise 42. Go ahead, pause the video, pause the PowerPoint, and take maybe 2 or 3 minutes to complete all of these tag questions with the correct helping verb, okay? See you on the next slide. All right, so you can answer these questions, can't you? Melinda won't tell anyone our secret, will she? Alice would like to come with us, wouldn't she? I don't have to do more chores, do I? Stephen shouldn't come to the meeting, should he? Flies can fly upside down, can't they? Why are you at? That is such a weird question. Flies can fly upside down. So bizarre. Okay, you would rather have your own apartment, wouldn't you? Jill has to renew her driver's license, doesn't she? If you want to catch your bus, you should leave now, shouldn't you? Mr. Baxter will be here tomorrow, won't he? You couldn't hear me, could you? And we have to be at the doctor's early tomorrow, don't we? Okay? All right, so that's basically it. I mean, if you know tag questions in any of your other tenses, past, present, future, perfect tenses, then it's going to be pretty easy using the modal verbs as well, okay? All right, so we're going to take a look now at 713. This is fun, right, if you like to boss people around. So we're talking about giving instructions or the imperative sentences, right? So these are telling people what you want them to do, all right? So looking at the box, 713, we have some examples, right? Open the door, for example, the captain says, and the soldier says, yes, sir. All right, so in this sentence, who is the subject? The verb is open. Who is the subject of the verb? There's no subject written, right? But every time it's imperative, it's always directed towards second person, right? Which means either you, singular, or you, plural, okay? Open the door. Yes, sir. Or the teacher would say, open the door, please, because we're more polite than captains, right? And the student says, sure. We do this if we're giving directions or instructions, right? Could you tell me how to get to the post office? Certainly walk 2 blocks down the street, turn left, and walk 3 more blocks. It's on the right hand of the street, okay? So here at the bottom, D through I, we have several examples, right? Close the window. Please sit down. Be quiet. Don't walk on the grass. Don't wait for me. Don't be late. Okay? So we're going to look at exercise 44. We always, every year, whenever we do this, the students always get into a big fight because they have different ideas of how to make rice. All right, so exercise 44, we have the instructions for making rice. Rice is one of the easiest things to make. But, you know, there are options, right? For example, when I make rice, oh, I don't even have the instructions here. I think maybe you do this as well. When I make rice, I fry the rice first with oil before I add the water, and then I add the water and like, you know, fry it with like oil and salt and maybe a little bit of garlic. It is delicious, right? And then I add the water, right? But that's not an option here. So I wrote down the instructions the way I would make rice if I'm doing it like the fastest, most boring way. But I think that there are more than one possible options, okay? Anyways, so pause the video, take a look at exercise 44, try and put them in order. For example, a lot of people fight over whether first you should measure the rice or number 3, should you put water into a pan? I don't think it really matters. I think the rice will turn out the same, right? But anyways, to the best of your ability, okay? So let's take a look. So what I said first pour the water into the pan, bring the water to a boil, then measure the rice, put the rice in the pan, set the timer, cook for 20 minutes, turn off the heat, take the pan off the stove, and don't burn yourself, right? This is just the way I would make rice, but there's other ways to do it, okay? All right, so I'm going to share with you guys something really cool, all right? I'm going to tell you how to make arepas. Arepas is a delicious food from South America. So these are the ingredients. We use corn flour. I used to be able to find, corn flour is difficult to find in Saudi Arabia, actually. Like the corn flour you guys have, it's like cornstarch for us to make something thick. But corn flour is something that's really common in all Mexican food and in a lot of South America. They basically just take the corn and they grind it up so it's really fine. And that's how we make tortillas and tamales and lots of other foods, right? So I used to be able to find corn flour at Lulu. I haven't seen it in a long time. There's one, what's it called? I forgot the name of it, but it was really, really delicious. Anyways, if I ever find it, I'll let you know, and maybe I'll invite you guys all for an arepas party. Okay, so here's your ingredients. You need corn flour, cup of corn flour, half a cup of cheese. Okay, so the kind of cheese that they use is called queso cuajado, which you definitely can't find here. It's similar to cottage cheese, which even I haven't really seen much of here. You can use any cheese you want, like even like white cheese or cheddar or anything. Okay, so yeah, half a cup of cheese, any cheese. Okay, 1 cup of milk, a teaspoon of salt, and a tablespoon of butter. Okay, so here are the instructions. You're going to put your corn flour, your cheese, your salt, and your butter in a bowl. So put basically everything except for the milk in a bowl. Okay? Then, in a pan, you're going to heat the milk until it's very hot. Not boiling, but about to boil. Okay? After the milk is hot, you're going to add it into the other ingredients, right? So the hot milk is going to melt cheese and the butter. You're going to mix everything together. And then you need to let it sit for 20 minutes because it's got to get thick and it's got to cool down, otherwise you can't touch it, okay? After that, then you're going to make circles that are like this big. I guess that's 5 centimeters. I tried to guess, right? I think in inches, right? I'm American. So about this big around, about this thick, okay? And then they already have oil in them, so you don't need to put oil in the pan, right? They already have cheese and butter, so they're going to have enough oil in them to cook, okay? So you're going to put them in the pan, maybe like 3 minutes on each side until it's like golden brown on each side, and then you serve it almost like a sandwich. So you cut it in half and you put inside many different things. They like to put in, for example, eggs, if it's for breakfast, like eggs with cheese, or beans. They eat a lot of beans in Latin America, meat, even they have sweet ones as well. I think I have a picture on the next page. Yes, those are arepas. So the one has eggs. This one, I think, is eggs. Oh, maybe I'll use red, right? Okay, this is eggs here. Oh, why is that yellow? You can't even see it. Okay. Eggs, right? Delicious. This is beans, and this is meat of some sort. It's probably pork. They're obsessed with pork in South America. Ugh. All right, so this is my recipe. It's one of my favorite recipes. It's super easy. Everyone loves it. If we were in class still, I would make it for you, but unfortunately we're at home being afraid of the coronavirus. So if a miracle happens, and I find 2 things have to happen. I find cornmeal and we get to have school again because I miss you guys so much. I'll make you guys arepas and you're gonna love them. Okay, so arepas, right? What I want you to do, practice using the imperative. You're going to write a recipe, and I'll create an assignment on Blackboard that I want you to add your recipe on Blackboard before the end of the week, okay? And maybe I'll include it in my recipe book. Maybe even I'll try some of your recipes if it's like really delicious, okay? Please don't make a recipe for like a fried egg or toast, right? Come on, be creative, all right? It should have at least like 6 steps in the recipe, okay? All right. So let's look at making suggestions, right? So to make a suggestion, this is to say like this is an idea that I have that I think we should do, right? For example, if it's hot today, what's a good thing to do on a hot day? Maybe go to the beach, right? So we could say, hey, let's go to the beach, right? Another way to say the exact same thing is, why don't we go to the beach, okay? Notice let's is actually, if you look over here, down here, let's is a contraction of let us, okay? Let us. And let's see. Oh yeah, so we don't say let's we, right? We just say let's go to the beach. But if we say why don't, right? You would say why don't we? You include we for why don't. Or if I'm making a suggestion for just you to do, right? Why don't you, for example, take a nap if you're tired, okay? All right, so let's look at 48. Let's make some suggestions. What do you think? So 48, where should we go for dinner tonight? Imagine like Abir and Rimas are talking to each other, right? They're having a phone conversation. They want to get dinner, even though you're supposed to stay home to be safe from the coronavirus, right? Anyways, they're crazy girls. They're gonna go out anyways. They don't even care. So Rimas says to Avir, "Where should we go for dinner tonight?" And Avir says, "Let's go to the new Korean restaurant." Is there a new Korean restaurant? I don't think so. I'm just speaking wishfully. I love Korean restaurants. You guys only, I think, have 2 here in Jeddah, right? So let's go to a Korean restaurant or the new Korean restaurant. And then we asked, well, who should we ask to invite? Who should we ask to join us for dinner tonight? And I think that there's only one good answer here. Why don't we invite Miss Jill? Of course, I would love to come. I love Korean food. What time should we meet at the restaurant? Well, we have to wake up early tomorrow because we're studying extra hard, because we can't go to class and ask our teacher all of the questions and do all the fun activities. So let's meet at 8 p.m. so that we can finish before 10 and be home by 11, right? It sounds responsible, but not too early as well. And finally, where should we go afterwards? Oh, I thought we were going to go home, but maybe they're going to be even crazier and not wake up early. Why don't we go to Jizan for coffee? That sounds awfully far. How far is that? Like 8 hours away? I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I guess like they're going crazy staying in their house. Whatever. All right. So that's it for making suggestions. In class, because we were supposed to have a class today, I wanted to do this activity together for making suggestions, but we weren't able to do that. So you can practice this on your own. If you want to send me some of your suggestions, I'm happy to check them for you, okay? All right, so last one, and then we're done with chapter 7, okay? So, so we're talking about preferences, right? I like this more than this. I prefer this to this. I like such and such better than such and such. We're going to look at all of the different ways of comparing things, okay, and talking about what we prefer. So first of all, we're dealing with prefer, okay? We say, I prefer apples to oranges, or I prefer watching TV to studying. So in A, we're dealing with nouns, okay? I prefer, cats to dogs. I prefer sunshine to rain, right? Nouns. And then for B, we're comparing verbs or activities, and notice we use verb ing, right? I prefer watching TV to studying. I prefer reading to watching movies. I prefer singing to dancing, right? Oh, correct, okay? All right, now if we're dealing with better than, you would say, I like apples better than oranges, right? Or I like coffee better than tea, all right? If it's with verbs, once again, it has to be verb ing, right? I like driving better than riding a bike, okay? Okay, we can also say would rather than. Okay, so for example, Anne would rather have an apple than an orange, or Anne would rather eat an apple than an orange. I would rather visit Morocco than Dubai, for example. I'd rather visit a big city than live there. Okay, you could also, so yeah, we would say I would rather or I'd rather, all right? And how do you know if the apostrophe D is would or had? You have to look at the context, okay? If rather is coming after, it's definitely would, okay? So we'll say I would rather blah, blah, blah than, okay? By making the question, I'll make it with or. Would you rather have an apple or an orange, okay? So I recommend, guys, that you pay attention to the box, because it's easy to say, for example, I like apples better to oranges, right? Or I prefer apples than oranges, and all of those forms are incorrect, okay? So make sure that you're using the correct preposition with the correct verb phrase, okay? All right, so I'm gonna ask you to pause the slideshow again and look at exercise 52, all right? So 52, you're going to complete it with either then or to. All right, so pause, complete exercise 52, and then we'll check together. All right, so looking at exercise 52, number 1, when I'm hot and thirsty, I prefer cold drinks to hot drinks. I like cold drinks better than hot drinks. I'd rather have a cold drink than a hot drink. I prefer tea to coffee. I like tea better than coffee. I'd rather drink tea than coffee. When I choose a book, I prefer nonfiction to fiction. I like folk music better than rock and roll. My parents would rather work than retire. Do you like spring better than fall? I prefer visiting my friends in the evening to watching TV by myself, and I would rather read a book in the evening than visit with friends. Okay, so that is going to be it for today. For your homework, okay, so for your homework, I'll give you guys a couple of things, all right? So it's up to you whether you do this or not, but I would encourage you to choose a friend from class and choose time where you guys both have 10 minutes, and you can either call each other on the phone or text on WhatsApp and answer 53 and 54 together, right? So choose whoever your friend is, and you would ask them for 53, for example, which do you like better, rice or potatoes? And they would reply. For me, for example, I prefer rice. So I would say I like rice better than potatoes, okay? And if you try to use the same phrase they use, so for example, which do you like better? I would say I like such and such better than such and such. Number two, which do you prefer, peas or corn? I prefer corn, so I would say I prefer corn to peas, okay? It's for you, right? It's not for me. If you want to practice the forms, get it more solidified in your mind, I really recommend that, okay? And then I'm going to ask you to do exercise 55, and I'll correct it at the beginning of the next class, okay? And that's it. Sorry again about the problems with the internet, and I will talk to you all tomorrow. All right, have a good day. Bye.